It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the San Diego Padres. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Sunday to you, wherever you may be. Welcome to the final game of the four-game series with San Diego. A low-scoring series indeed. The Dodgers have won 2 of 3, but San Diego has actually outscored them 7 runs to 6. Of course, for San Diego, that's kind of a trademark. They've won 2 games this year where they collected 1 hit in each game to win, and one of the 2 hits was a bunt single. On the mound today, Big Tyson Ross, the all-star man for San Diego. He'll go up against the Dodgers' Hyun-Jin Ryu, who is in pursuit of his 10th win. For the Dodgers, of course, in first place by 1 game, hoping to solidify the position. We'll keep an eye on the Giant game to see how they come up against the Arizona Diamondbacks. So those are the pregame nuts. Above all, coming up, it'll be the Dodgers and the Padres and a whole lot more right after this.
The World Cup final between Germany and Argentina on the minds of some as they make their way into Dodger Stadium for Game 4 of a 4-game set between the San Diego Padres and your Los Angeles Dodgers. And fans, you don't want to miss this. The Dodgers will honor the longest tenured announcer with any sports franchise ever on Tuesday, July 29th. Be one of the first 40,000 fans in attendance at Dodger Stadium, and you'll take home a Vin Scully 65th anniversary microphone, compliments of Farmer John. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Hello, everybody, and welcome inside Dodger Stadium. Game 97 of the first half of the 2014 season. I'm Alana Rizzo. Want to talk a little bit more about the performance of Paul Maholm in last night's game. Paul Maholm, of course, coming out of the bullpen, having not made a start since May 14th, and pitched absolutely brilliantly. Went 6+ innings, giving up just 2 hits and no earned runs. And Don Mattingly has set the rotation for his club for after the All-Star break. In Game 1 in St. Louis, it's going to be Dan Herron on Friday, an 8-6 record so far, a 4.23 ERA, but Don Mattingly has said he loves his consistency. Zach Greinke, of course, going to his second All-Star game, looking for his 12th win of the season. He will go on Saturday. Clayton Kershaw, of course, the Dodgers ace, looking for win number 12, already a no-hitter this year. And today's pitcher, Hyunjin Ryu, will also pitch on Monday against the Pirates, going for his 10th win already in 2014. Hyunjin Ryu trying to get another win today before the second half of the season. He is on the hill for your Los Angeles Dodgers. After the break, the legendary Vin Scully on the call. We will be right back. Stay with us.
We're at Dodger Stadium, the final game of the 4-game series with San Diego, and the final game before the All-Star break. For the Dodgers, this is also game number 97, so they'll only have 65 games more left as far as the regular season is concerned. That's a pretty few number. You have to go back really to 1974. And if you go back to 1973 after the All-Star break, the Dodgers had only 61 games left. And one thing reminded me, you know how you get all these various brochures in the mail? I got one yesterday, opened it up, and so help me, they were selling Christmas trees. So time is flying, and everybody involved knows full well. For Bud Black, he finds his club 11 games back of the Dodgers, and let's face it, if he had a really powerful cleanup hitter, somebody who would really clean up, why, they'd be a lot closer than they are. Plus the fact the Padres have gone on the DL too many times, and still, with all their problems, they're only 11 games back of the Dodgers. It'll be Christian Orfia in right. Chase Headley, red hot this month, will be at third base. Carlos Quentin in left field. Yasmani Grandal at first. Rene Rivera behind the plate. Cameron Maybin in center. Brooks Conrad at second base. Alexei Amarista at shortstop. And Tyson Ross on the mound. On the mound for the Dodgers, Hyun-Jin Ryu with a record of 9-5. He is 1-0 against San Diego this year, and he is 2-0 lifetime. Back on June the 22nd, Ryu allowed 1 run on 4 hits, and the Dodgers beat the Padres 2-1. Just about all these games are particularly close. In fact, 9 games have been played, and there's a total of 48 runs. Total. The first pitch to Norfia in for a strike. So over the 9 games, the Dodgers scored 26 runs and the Padres 22. And in this series, there have only been 13 runs scored, and the Padres have outscored the Dodgers, even though they've lost 2 out of 3, 7-6. As far as the weather is concerned, 81 degrees as the Dodgers playing their last game before the break. The 1-1 pitch on the way, slow breaking ball in for a strike, and the count 1-2 to Chris Denorfia. 81 degrees on this Sunday afternoon. Ryu working on Denorfia. The Padres have lost 6 of the last 8. Ryu ready in the 1-2 pitch, swung on and missed, and down goes Denorfia. So 1 away in the first inning. Take a look at the Dodgers defensively. Gonzalez and Gordon, Rojas and Uribe, with Crawford in left field. Matt Kemp sits this one out. Andre Ethier in center, and Yasiel Puig in right. Ellis behind the plate. Ryu now ready to work on Chase Headley, who has been smoking. Chase Headley 2 for 4 last night. He is 4 for 13 in the series. Takes an off-speed pitch for a strike, and the count 0-1. Headley on this road trip hitting .333, and he has always done well, especially here against the Dodgers. And he hits a line drive off the body of Ryu, picked up by Gordon to throw him out, and immediately the Dodgers will gather at the mound to make sure that Ryu is all right. That big body of Hyun-Jin slowed it down. He gets an assist the hard way, and for D. Gordon, an alert back up and made the play. So Headley, who always hits well here, as we mentioned, in fact, his career at Dodger Stadium, he's hitting .317. So as he would say, I'm sure I see the ball very well at Dodger Stadium. So 2 down, and Carlos Quentin coming up. Ryu did not even bother to rub, and Quentin checks in at the plate. 1 for 4 last night. He has a double and 3 RBIs in the series, and on his road trip, 4 for 19. So he's struggling with an overall batting average of .178. He takes a strike, and the count 0-1. Quentin missed a lot of games, and he means a great deal. He's been in 44 games, and the Padres are playing their 96th. So he's missed 52 games, half the first half. So Carlos means a great deal. Yonder Alonso, the big first baseman, is hurt, and that means Bud Black had to play catchers at first, Rivera and Grandal, because Tommy Medica, who started, had a tight groin in the middle of game 1, and they are without a regular first baseman. Quentin, right-hand batter, has a look at a pitch, and that's a little low, and the count 1-2. Add to that the loss of a fine pitcher like Andrew Cashner. Ronnie Erlin is also sidelined, so they've really been victimized on the DL. 1-2 pitch on the way, and that's taken a little low. Check swing, no swing, says Brian Gorman, and a 2-ball, 2-strike count. San Diego Padres did something that is hard to believe. In 2 games this year, they've won each game with 1 hit. The 2-2 pitch is taken low, ball 3. One of the hits that won a game was a bunt single. And the only time that that's happened before, and it would make you scratch your head like Chase Headley did, would be the fact that Dodgers did that back in 1965, winning 2 games with 1 hit in each game. One was that great game that Sandy Koufax pitched when Bob Hendley allowed 1 hit. Quentin, meanwhile, swings and misses, and down he goes. 2 strikeouts for Ryu here in the first inning. So at the end of half an inning, The Padres, nothing. And Ryu strikes out 2 of the 3. And here come the Dodgers. Three men that he faces on this hot day. The pitch count will be very important. He made 13 pitches while striking out 2. Meanwhile, let's take a look now at the Dodger lineup trying to get him some runs. Dee Gordon leads off at second base. Carl Crawford returning to a starting role in left field as Matt Kemp sits it down. Yasiel Puig is in right and Adrian Gonzalez at first. Then you have Andre Ethier in center, Juan Uribe at third, A.J. Ellis bats 7th behind the plate, Miguel Rojas the shortstop, and Hyun-Jin Ryu batting 9th. Big Tyson Ross out on the mound. He will be the all-star representative for the San Diego Padres. Tyson, a big man, looks down from that 10-inch mound, and we're about ready to go. And his first pitch to Dee Gordon in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Ross from Oakland and used to play Little League ball and all kinds of little ball outside the Coliseum in Oakland on 66th Street. So much so that when he got his first Major League uniform, he wanted number 66. Well, he had that for a while, but not anymore. Dee Gordon takes off the plate, and a 2-ball, 1-strike count to the all-star second baseman. Bottom of the first inning, no score. Each pitcher going on 4 days rest. 2-1 pitch slap foul outside of third. That's very important, especially for Ryu. When Ryu pitches on 5 days rest, he is 10-2. When Tyson Ross pitches on 5 days rest, 2-10. But today, each pitcher is pitching on 4 days. Ryu is 8-8, and Ross is 10-12. The pitch is swung on and missed, and down goes Dee Gordon. So just like that, 1 out in the first inning, and the batter will be Carl Crawford. We'll take a look at the Padres defensively. They shape up with Grandal, the catcher, at first. Then Conrad, Amarista, and Headley, Quinton, Mabin, and DeNorfia, and Rivera behind the plate, handling Tyson Ross. Tyson Ross comes into the game, by the way, and facing Carl Crawford. Crawford returns to the lineup. Among other things, he's got some pretty good numbers. Left-hand hitter promptly bangs it into left field for a base hit. Crawford was 5 for 8 against Tyson Ross, so now he is 6 for 9. So before we could even give you the number, Crawford singles to left, and the batter now will be Yasiel Puig. So Crawford a single, and Puig checking in at the plate. Yasiel kicked out of last night's game for arguing with David Rackley and calling him stupid, and so he was chased for the second time in his young career. We're going to have him speak, when he's angry, speak Spanish to the English-speaking umpires. He can get away with it, perhaps. So here's Yasiel hitting .307, and there goes Crawford. The pitch is low, the throw is short, and Crawford is in there. The throw was short hopped by the second baseman Brooks Conrad in front of the bag. So Rene Rivera, who has a good strong arm, and he was right on the money, but he was late, and Crawford, who runs well, just did get in under the tag. So a stolen base puts the Dodgers in scoring position with one out. Puig followed by Gonzalez trying to pick him up. Tyson Ross with Crawford at second base. Ross is very vulnerable to the stolen base. He is 6'6". So by the time he decides to pitch, there's an awful lot going on. Here's the 1-0 pitch on the way, and that's a slider down and away. 2 balls and no strikes. To bring him up to date, Tyson Ross now has had base stealers try 26 times. They have been successful 22 of the 26. So the Dodgers didn't waste any time, and Crawford steals second base. 2-0 the count to Yasiel Puig. Puig has a home run in the past against Ross. Fooled swing. In other words, he wasn't committed. His mind wasn't sure, do I swing or don't I? So it was half a swing. Remember last night, the 2 pitches to Puig, called a strike. He didn't like him. Kind of stayed around home plate. But then the second one, he just stood there and then gestured at home plate. That's when he said, "You're stupid," and Rackley said, "You're gone." So we learn something every day, don't we, Yasiel? 2-1 the count. Tyson Ross set. Big guy comes over the top. Fastball fouled at the plate, and the count 2-2. Tyson Ross, couple of things about him. He is a strikeout pitcher. With Gordon as a notch in his belt, he has 118 strikeouts. That's right behind Ian Kennedy and Clayton Kershaw. He'll strike out swinging over 21% of the time, and usually picks up a bunch of strikeouts in the first inning. In fact, he's had 21 strikeouts in the first inning, plus Gordon today. So Tyson 6'6" and about 230. And his 2-2 pitch instead a full turn and a look back at Crawford. Tyson Ross from Berkeley, though it's only right that he went to the University of California up there and majored in American studies. Tyson leans on the knee to look in. Puig waiting at the plate, and the 2-2 pitch on the way. Ross set at the belt. Right-hander comes over the top, and the fastball is a little low, ball 3. How committed was Tyson Ross as a child? How committed were his parents? Well, among other things, he was about 4 years old, and his parents had a baseball card made with his picture on it, wearing an Oakland A's jersey and a big Oakland A's cap. And don't you know, he was a second-round pick by the Oakland A's. 3-2 the count. Ross a look back. Now comes to Puig. Swung on and missed, and down he goes. So that's 2 strikeouts. So he's living up to the strikeouts in the first inning. And the batter now, Adrian Gonzalez. Adrian Gonzalez lost a double when it was ruled the ball that hit right by the foul line was foul. But then in the 9th inning, he hit one to right center. It was cut off by Venable, but that was the decision. Go for 2, and Adrian made it, getting the cheers from D. Gordon. And eventually, Gonzalez came around to score after Kemp struck out. They walked Ethier intentionally. Then unintentionally, they walked Uribe, and that's when A.J. Ellis hit the fly ball to deep right, even though it was caught by Seth Smith. Speedy, as Don Mattingly called Gonzalez, came in to score the winning run. So the pitch to Adrian now. Fastball picks up the outside corner, and that thing hurried up to the plate at 95 miles an hour. We are in July, much to the relief of Tyson Ross. He is plagued by a terrible month of June. It might be busting out all over musically, but the league busts out all over against him. Strike one, pitch on the way. Adrian fouls it off. This year, in the month of June, Tyson Ross, no wins and 4 losses. In his career, in the month of June, no wins, 10 losses. This July, he has a victory, and in his career, he is 3-1 with a fine ERA of 1.5. So Tyson Ross with 2 down, first inning, no score. Adrian waiting on a no-ball, 2-strike count. Andre Ethier on deck. Strike 2 pitch coming up. Ross over the top. It is swung on and missed, tagged at the plate by Rivera. And so I should say Tyson Ross gets a lot of strikeouts in the first inning. Today he strikes out the side. And at the end of an inning, no score. Ross strikes out the side in the first inning, leaves Crawford at second base. And now in the second inning, the switch-hitting catcher and first baseman, Yasmani Grandal, and he takes a strike. Grandal's from Havana, Cuba, but he lives in Florida. In fact, he went to the University of Miami. So Grandal batting right-handed. Ryu delivers off speed. Yasmani way out in front of it. Grandal is 6'2", 210. 25 years old. He'll be 26 in November. The strike 2 pitch on the way is foul back, though he's still there, 0-2. We were talking earlier about Tyson Ross, the fact that the opposition has stolen 22 out of 26. Ryu has only had 3 stolen base attempts, and the league is 2 out of 3. Hungin's next pitch at the dirt, at the feet of Grandal. New ball put in play. 1 ball and 2 strikes to count. In the Giant Arizona game, a new left-hander for Arizona, Vida Nuno, will go up against Madison Bumgarner. And the breaking ball swung on and missed. AJ gets an angle and throws him out at first base. So Ryu has 3 strikeouts. Ross has 3 strikeouts, and that brings up Rene Rivera. Last night in the 3rd inning, a good bunt by D. Gordon, and it would be a base hit for most, but Rivera very quick, pounced on it, whirled, and he has a great arm, and nipped Gordon at first base. A wonderful play by Rene Rivera. His throw was a little short when Crawford stole second. But boy, on that bunt play by Gordon, it was something to watch. So Rivera checking in, right-hand batter. Literally the backup catcher for Grandal, but not today. Rene hitting .222. Last night went 0 for 3. Ryu comes back to him and finds the strike zone. 1 ball and 1 strike. Rivera had a nightmare game, that's the only way to put it, in the first game of the series. Charged with a couple of errors. Tommy Medica, the first baseman, went out with a tight groin. Rene filled in, and filled in is a very generous way to put it. 1-2 the count. Rivera, whose wife presented him with twin girls back in March. Low-key, very pleasant fella. Rene's from Bayamon in Puerto Rico and originally drafted by the Mariners. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count. Here comes Ryu back, and the fastball is low. Dodgers left Crawford at second base in the first inning. The Dodgers are hitting .138 with runners in scoring position in the series. .138. 2-2 the count to Rene Rivera. Here comes Ryu, and it's fouled away. By the way, there are a lot of reasons why a ball club struggles. Dodgers know all about that last year and again early this year. A lot of folks might wonder what in the world has happened to the Giants. Well, among other things, the Giants have lost the touch how to win at home. Giants have lost 16 of the last 20 at home. Well, the Dodgers can understand. They're lucky to be break even at home, 24-24, and the Padres are 24-25. So home sweet home doesn't really figure. Certainly not in the National League West. We'll take a look at Arizona. Arizona at home is 4 games under 500. Colorado is break even, like the Dodgers. The next one, Rivera fouls away. No score, second inning. Hyun-Jin Ryu has made 24 pitches, 12 in the first inning. Now the left-hander Ryu delivers a little roller wide to third. Uribe scoops and throws to get him, and we have 2 down. Talking about the Giants and their struggles at home, Vida Nuno, pitching for the D-backs, came over from the Yankees, threw 7 scoreless innings in his first Arizona start. Madison Bumgarner has allowed at least 5 runs in each of his last 3 starts. Buster Posey is in a terrible slump, 5 for 34. And Paul Goldschmidt is the other way. Goldschmidt of Arizona hitting .436 for 11 games. Up there now, Cameron Maybin. Cameron takes a strike. 0-1 the count. Maybin out of North Carolina. In and out of the lineup in center field. Strike 1 pitch on the way is swung on and missed. 0-2. Boy, it must be heartbreaking for the San Diego pitchers not to get any run. They are last in runs in the league. They're last in batting average. The San Diego starters in the last 15 consecutive games have allowed 3 runs or less. And meanwhile, Maybin strikes out. That gives Ryu 4 strikeouts in 2 innings. But when the dust settles at the end of an inning and a half, no score. of San Diego to score, and it shows you the run support for the starting pitchers. San Diego gives the Padres pitchers a mere 3 runs. Atlanta a little bit more, the Red Sox a little bit more than that, and Philadelphia a little bit more than that. In the last 8 games, with an ERA of 2.2, the San Diego starters have lost 6 out of 8. So we'll see about Tyson Ross. And Bud Black, a former pitcher, knows all about the frustrations of a ball club that just doesn't score. So we will see now about Tyson Ross. The batter is Andre Ethier, then Juan Uribe, and A.J. Ellis. And the first pitch is promptly banged into the gap in left center. Quentin over to get it. On his way for 2 is Ethier. A one-hopper is in there, but it is too late. So Ethier opens up with a double to left center. Dodgers hit number 2 against Tyson Ross. So Andre Ethier back in action with a double into the gap. And now Uribe, Ellis, and Rojas will try to pick him up. Hyun-Jin Ryu has made 28 pitches in his 2 innings and struck out 4 while retiring 6 in a row. Remember last night, Paul Maholm turned in a gem and retired the first 10 in a row. So here's Uribe. He had 1 hit in 3 at-bats, plus a walk last night, and a walk in the 9th inning. He promptly bangs it over the glove of Grandal into right field. Ethier will stop at third. So the Dodgers have runners at first and third and nobody out. Ellis, Rojas, and Ryu will be coming up. It was a remarkable turn of events last night as we see Uribe single again. That is what A.J. Ellis went through and then wound up being the hero. Ellis coming up now with runners at first and third. Nobody out. First of all, A.J. suffered the worst foul ball into the mask that he's experienced in his entire career. It knocked him on his right knee. It took the mask. It tore the mask right off his face. And wouldn't you know, he comes up in the 9th inning and has the game-winning fly ball to right field. A.J. has a look, and the first pitch in for a strike, and the count 0-1. One of the things Stan Conti was checking on with A.J. Ellis, the fact that he thought, Stan did, of a possible broken jaw. I mean, never mind concussion. So he was really interested in the jawbone to make sure that it was not misplaced. A.J. chases one in the count 0-2. The catchers take a beating, and the catcher's mask that is worn by Rivera is a one-piece mask. It forms right in with the helmet. A.J. Ellis, however, he has a 2-piece mask. I'm not sure whether that was better than Rivera's, but it really did do a number on him. And as A.J. was saying, that was the hardest lick I've taken in my entire career. Well, he's up there now, first and third, no balls and 2 strikes. Tyson Ross at the belt, comes back. A.J. fouls it away. For those watching on television, you can have a look at the impact of that foul ball off Quinton's bat, and then Stan Conti checking his neck and also his jaw, and then he hit the long fly ball to Seth Smith. Gonzalez scored, and the Dodgers won it 1-0. So for A.J. Ellis, that was a tremendous performance last night. 0-2 the count. Tyson Ross ready. Right-hander comes over the top, and that's low, ball 1. Dodgers have 3 hits against Tyson Ross. Crawford singled in the first inning on the first pitch. Andre Ethier doubled here in the second inning on the first pitch. Juan Uribe singled to right on the first pitch. So first and third, nobody out, no score, bottom of the second. Ross at the belt, big guy deals, fastball, foul back, and he hurried that thing up to the plate at 96 miles an hour. Which reminds me last night when Kenley Jansen came in to pitch the 9th inning. He made 17 pitches, and it was like last year and the year before. Kenley hit as high as 98 on the gun, 97. I mean, he was throwing blurs. 1 ball and 2 strikes to count. First and third, nobody out. No score, second inning. Ellis waits, and the 1-2 pitch from Tyson Ross is down and dirty. Nice save by Rivera, which brings up the question about Ross. Does he have any wild pitches? And the answer is, does he ever? He has 9 wild pitches. Ian Kennedy has 10. So first and third, Ethier ready to come down the line just in case. And the 2-2 pitch is swung on and missed. Breaking ball down. Slider, no doubt. And Ellis strikes out. So 1 away. That is also the 4th strikeout for Ross and the 8th strikeout in the game. Now Miguel Rojas, and he's looking at Bundy, and that long look, and makes you wonder, are they thinking about a possible squeeze? Hyun-Jin Ryu on deck. So Bundy over to say something to Andre Ethier, and it will be interesting to see now if the Dodgers indeed do put a possible squeeze play on. Ross plants the right foot on the rubber. Runners take short leads. Ethier not coming down the line at all. The first pitch to Rojas, half swing for a strike, 0-1. Rojas hitting .213, 1 home run, half a dozen runs batted in, a wizard with the glove, and another look at Bundy. Chase Headley is right at the bag, so Ethier can't run down the line at all. The Ethier looks like he's pleading with Headley. Hey, I'm not a runner. You don't have to hold me on. We'll see. 0-1 to count. Ross set, checking, and the pitch taken for a strike. Well, forget about any bunt now. No balls, 2 strikes. 1 out, second inning, no score. The All-Star game is on the horizon Tuesday night in what should be a cool Minneapolis, Minnesota. We want to talk about what we think might be the greatest all-star team the National League ever produced. But we'll try to find a better time. Here's the strike 2 pitch to Miguel. Line drive at Headley on the bag, double play, and that's that. So Rojas hits it right on the screws, but right at Headley, who was holding Ethier on with 1 out and came off the bag for 2, and he's Johnny on the spot. And we're heading for the 3rd, no score. Make it the top of the 3rd. A reminder, Sunday, August 3rd, Dodgers and Cubs. First 15,000 ticketed kids 14 and under in attendance receive their own Dodgers back-to-school backpack. We were talking about time flying. It'll be compliments of popsicle. So for tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Been quite a 2 innings. We've had 8 strikeouts. Dodgers again frustrated with runners in scoring position in the series now. They have 5 hits in 32 tries. So Ryu has to hang tough. Brooks Conrad, then Alexei Amarista and Tyson Ross. We just wanted to duck it in between pitches about maybe the best all-star team the National League ever produced pitches in for a strike. We'll give you some players. How about the Chicago Cubs, Billy Williams and Ron Santo, Reds outfielder Frank Robinson, Pittsburgh outfielder Roberto Clemente. They were the reserves, and all of them made the Hall of Fame. Every one, and they weren't even in the starting lineup. So you can imagine what kind of a lineup the National League had back in 1965. 0-2 the count to Brooks Conrad. Ryu ready, deals low, ball 1. How about this lineup? The leadoff man was Willie Mays. Hitting second, Henry Aaron. Hitting third, Wilver Stargell. And hitting cleanup, Richie Allen, who in those days played for the Phillies and who played here as well. 1-2 pitch in the dirt, 2-2. The catcher was Milwaukee Braves' Joe Torre. The first baseman, Ernie Banks of the Cubs. The second baseman, Pete Rose. At shortstop, Maury Wills. Here's the 2-ball, 2-strike count. Ryu ready, ground ball, foul outside of third. So of the 8 starting position players, all won the National League MVP award at least once, except Richie Allen, who in his first year away from the National League promptly was the MVP in the American League. That's quite a lineup. Just the thought of Mays leading off and Henry Aaron batting second. Meanwhile, the pitch to the second baseman, Brooks Conrad, missing target, and we go 3-2. By the way, that ball club really had a scramble, and they eventually beat the American League 6-5. Here's the 3-2 pitch on the way, and it's slapped foul into the stands. In that game, Bob Gibson came in to relieve and struck out Harmon Killebrew to give the National League the victory. So when you're looking at all-star lineups and great names, think of that 65 club. It was really something special. D. Gordon will be leading off instead of Willie Mays. The 3-2 pitch fouled away. This is also an important day, this day in 1941. And of course, when you think of 41, when you're nice and calm and not thinking about Pearl Harbor. But the baseball season of 41, on this day in July, the Yankees came to Chicago with a 12-game winning streak. Conrad, meanwhile, strikes out. So Ryu has struck out 5 in the first 2 1/3 innings. So the Yankees had their 12-game streak. Joe DiMaggio had a 51-game hitting streak, and they were going to play a doubleheader with the White Sox. What did Joe do? Well, in the first game, he went 3 for 4, and the Yankees won the game 8-1. In the nightcap, Joe extended his streak to 53 straight with a 6th-inning single, and the Yanks won their 14th straight. Tommy Henrich had a scoring fly ball in the 11th inning. Meanwhile, Amarista takes a strike, and the count 0-1. The strike one pitch fouled away, 0-2. When you think about it, with the Yankees winning 1-0, Red Ruffing pitched an 11-inning shutout. DiMaggio not only went on to hit 56 straight, then he missed one. Had he made that one, he then went on to hit another 16. The pitch to Amarista, strike 3. Why are we talking about the past? Well, heck, we've had 8 men come to the plate, and 6 of them have struck out. What else could you do? Anyway, DeMash had 56. Had he not broken it, he then went on for 16. So he could easily have wound up hitting 72 out of 73, which he did, but could have gone 73 in a row. Remarkable. Tyson Ross takes a strike. 0-1 the count. By the way, in the 56-game hitting streak, DiMaggio struck out 5 times. Heck, we've had 6 strikeouts already, and we're in the top of the 3rd inning. So Hyun-Jin Ryu on a strikeout tear against the ball club. Let's face it, he figures to give them somewhat of a bad time. His last game in Detroit, to show you the difference, he went 2 1/3 innings and was walloped. Gave up 7 runs and struck out 2. Ross, a tapper to third. Uribe is up with it to take care of him. So that's 9 in a row retired by Ryu. Last night, Paul Maholm retired 10 in a row, and at the end of 2.5 innings, no score. And struck out 6 of them. First it was DeNorfia, then it was Quentin, then it was Grandal, then it was Maben, then it was Conrad, then it was Amarista, and then the pitcher made contact and grounded out. Ryu, by the way, his high in strikeouts last year, he struck out 12 here at Dodger Stadium against Colorado. But he is certainly off to a great start. And for that matter, so is Tyson Ross. Here we are in the bottom of the 3rd inning, and collectively we've had 10 strikeouts. Dodgers in first place, the Padres in 3rd place, 11 back. And of course, San Diego has to be just mentally upset over the thought, here we are, good defense, wonderful pitching, and a strong bullpen, and they just can't score. Tyson Ross starts him, fastball strike, 0-1. Ross has struck out Gordon and Puig and Gonzalez and Ellis. Strike 1 pitch on the way. Big swing and a miss. 0-2 the count to Hyun-Jin Ryu. Ryu's high in strikeouts this year, 9 against the Mets. 0-2. Tyson Ross comes back inside, gets away from Rene Rivera. 1 ball and 2 strikes they count. Ross has lost 4 games that you would call tough losses. He's 7-9. With any help at all, he'd be 11-5. He's a ground ball pitcher, basically. And there's the ground ball. Easy pick and a high feed. Ross stays with it. So 1 away here in the 3rd inning as Grandal makes the play. D. Gordon coming up. Because he is a ground ball pitcher, and he is number 1. He has the highest rate of ground outs to add. As you would imagine, he gets a lot of double plays. 22% of the opportunities, he gets them. He's actually had his infield turn in 16 double plays behind him. So he's a lot better pitcher than his numbers would indicate. 7-9, 0-2 against the Dodgers this year, 0-3 lifetime. Right-hander snaps a fastball in the dirt all the way to the backstop. 1 ball and no strikes to D. Gordon. Gordon hitting .292. His average has been going down, and I'm sure he'd be the last one to make any excuses, but you have to believe one reason it's going down. He's got to be weary. The 1-0 pitch, a little roller. Up with it is the second baseman Conrad in time after Ross tried to scoop it, and it went right under his glove. So Gordon taps out, 2 down here in the 3rd, and the batter will be Carl Crawford. So Gordon had an opening when Ross failed to come up, and Conrad did a good job to nip him at first base. So Carl Crawford, who was hitting .625 against Ross, good reason to start, and he promptly singled on the first pitch and stole second, but the Dodgers left him. So no score, 2 out, bottom of the 3rd. Ross into the windup, fastball in for a strike. Boy, that's something both Mahalam and Kennedy did last night. First pitch strike. Here's the strike 1 pitch on the way. Breaking ball down, chased and missed, and the count 0-2. Tyson Ross, by the way, has become even more of a ground ball pitcher this year than he was last. The strike 2 pitch, line drive, foul down the left field line. Though Carl is still there, 0-2. We told you what a miserable June Tyson Ross has had. In the month of July, the league is hitting .170 against him. And he has done a very good job. Left-hand hitters are batting only .204. Crawford fouls off another, and the count remains 0-2. We're in the bottom of the 3rd, no score, strikeouts the theme. We've had 10 strikeouts. Ryu has struck out 6. Ross has struck out 4. Tyson waits, turns on the rubber, and the pitch to Carl Crawford is swung on and missed, and that gives us 5 for Ross and 11 strikeouts in the game. And at the end of 3, as you might expect, no score. spots for the new Jalapeno Ranch or Barbecue Ultimate Cheeseburgers at participating restaurants. And by the Ram 1500, Motor Trend's 2014 Truck of the Year and first ever back-to-back champion. Fourth inning, no score in the ball game, and it'll be DeNorfia, Headley, and Quentin. More importantly, there have been 11 strikeouts in 3 innings. DeNorfia struck out in the first inning to set the tempo of the game. Looks at a slow curveball for a strike, and the count 0-1. We're talking about first pitch strikes last night. Mahalam 16 of 20, and Kennedy 25 of 29. The next pitch outside, 1 ball, 1 strike. Today, Hyun-Jin Ryu 9 of 10, and Ross 11 of 13. First pitch strike. 1-1 makes it 2-1. DeNorfia, Headley, and Quentin. The 2-1 pitch on the way out in front. 2-2. So DeNorfia guessing fastball and started his swing much too early. 2-2 to Chris. The pride of Connecticut and Wheaton College. Connecticut, the nutmeg state. Here's the 2-2 pitch on the way. Slow curveball, banged to short. Rojas sets for the throw and guns him out. So DeNorfia taps to short. He's now 0 for 2. 1 out in the 4th. Ryu's retired 10 in a row. And the batter will be Chase Headley. Rojas setting with that good arm of his and makes it easy, throwing a strike to Adrian Gonzalez. So DeNorfia is shut down. Dodgers have had a problem with Headley. He hit one right back off Ryu's body, and it was backed up by Gordon, and there's another first pitch strike. 0-1. Headley's been very important. He had the home run to shatter any dreams that Clayton Kershaw had in the 6th inning of Game 1. In Game 2, he had a key double off the glove of Scott Van Slyke. Last night, Headley was 2 for 4, but his club was shut out. Strike 2 pitch is low, ball 1. We get a report Martin Prado has just singled in a run in the 3rd inning. Arizona behind the newcomer Vida Nuno, leading Madison Bumgarner and the Giants 1-0, and they're now in the 4th inning. Fastball takes care of Headley. So that's 11 in a row retired by Ryu, and he has struck out 7. The Padres have not hit a ball out of the infield, so under the heading, they also serve who only stand and wait. That's Messrs. Crawford, Ethier, and Puig. Quentin struck out, but this time hits one into left field for a base hit. So having retired 11 in a row, Ryu surrenders the single to Carlos Quentin, and the batter is Yasmani Grandal. For Quentin, of course, I guess for as long as he plays, certainly in the National League, he will be considered a villain to Dodger fans. So it really hurts them to have Quentin be the guy to break up the perfect set. Ever since the battle with Zach Greinke, and Zach coming up with a broken collarbone. So Quentin at first, 2 out, no score. 0-1 to Grandal. So the Padres are getting the idea. This guy's throwing the first pitch strike, not going to hang around. Yasmani batting .207. Backs off, pitch just missed the inside corner. 1-1 to count. Grandal playing first base. Switch hitter, first string catcher. Off speed, that changeup way out in front. 1-2. Little foul ball, so 1 ball and 2 strikes. Grandal was originally signed first-round pick by the Cincinnati Reds. Of course, when you see him play, he's got some talent, switch hitter, catch and play first. He's got some pretty good numbers in the minor leagues. 2 years ago, he had a good year with the Padres. Just off the plate. 2 years ago, Grandal, 8 home runs, hit .297. Trying to get back to that mark. Far off it right now. .207, 7 home runs, 19 runs batted in. Ground ball to Rojas, over to Gordon. That'll be that. No runs, 1 hit, a man left. And at the end of 3.5 innings, no score. The first half. Actually, it's more than the first half. However, the Dodgers can look ahead. After the All-Star break, they really have some tough roads to hoe. First of all, on the road, they'll open up in St. Louis next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then they'll go to Pittsburgh for 3. They're not finished. They'll have an off day and then play the Giants a big weekend, 25, 26, and 27. No rest for the weary, because when they come home, they'll open up with the Atlanta Braves for 3, then the Cubs, and then they have 4 games with the Angels, 2 here and immediately 2 in Anaheim. And they're not finished. They'll keep on going to Milwaukee and Atlanta. So by the 14th of August, we'll have a vague idea of just where the Dodgers are and how they're doing. And when they come home, more tough work. They'll open with Milwaukee. Because Milwaukee has slowed down considerably. They've lost 7 straight and 9 out of 10. So the Cardinals have caught them. So there's a lot to be done as we move on to the bottom of the 4th. They're going to check. No swing. Ryu has made 59 pitches. Ross, in his 3 innings, has made 39. 1 ball, no strikes. Little roller foul. 1-1. Puig struck out in the first inning, on his way to his first All-Star game, on his way to the home run derby. Yasiel batting .306, 12 home runs, 51 runs batted in. good fastball. He just threw it right by him. 95 miles an hour. 1-2. Puig has struck out 77 times. Make it 78. That's 6 strikeouts for Tyson Ross.
First baseman number 23, Adrian Gonzalez.
Ryu has 7. So 13 strikeouts, and we're only in the bottom of the 4th inning. Dodgers came close. They had first and third, nobody out in the 2nd inning. However, that's when Ellis struck out and Rojas hit the line drive at Headley, who stepped on third to double up Ethier. Gonzalez struck out in the 1st inning. Ball 1. Tyson Ross, with 6 strikeouts right now, has 127. So that brings him 1 more than Kershaw, ties him with Zach Greinke. Steven Strasburg with Washington, he leads the pitchers in strikeouts, 149. Then Johnny Cueto, 134. Last night, Ian Kennedy got to 133. Fouled away. 2-1 to Adrian. Madison Bumgarner, who's pitching today against Arizona, started that game with 123 strikeouts. Two balls and 1 strike. Off the plate. 3-1. Interesting, base is empty, and they are not over shifting on Gonzalez. 4 stationary infielders. The only depth, Conrad, couple of feet out on the grass. 3-1. Fastball pulled. Grandal feeding Ross. 2 down in the 4th inning. Andre Ethier doubled to the gap in left center. Got to third and was doubled up on the line drive. No score, bottom of the 4th. Last we heard, Arizona leading the Giants 1-0 very early in that game. Dodgers can thank their lucky stars. San Diego, the Padres have lost 6 of 9 to the Dodgers, but the Padres have split 12 with San Francisco. In the dirt, ball 1. Diamondbacks still lead the Giants 1-0 in the 4th inning. One and 1. Andre Ethier had been 3 for 12 against Ross with his double. He's now 4 for 13. Fastball, and a good one at 96. Tyson Ross, 6'6". He can bring it. To throw as hard as he can and be a ground ball pitcher, you would think he'd be dynamite. But his earned run average on the road is a little over 4. 2-2. In fact, for Tyson, he's allowed home runs 3 times higher on the road than he does at home. We mentioned Padres don't score for him. Of course, they don't score for anybody. But his ERA, 3.5 in games through 9 starts. As they say on Broadway, how'd he come out? 1 win, 8 losses. That's 9 games where the Padres have scored zip to 2. Bud Black doing a little cheerleading. and a comebacker. So that'll do it. The Dodgers go 1, 2, 3. That's 8 in a row retired by Ross since the single by Uribe. And at the end of 4, no score. A beautiful day. Admittedly, a little on the warm side, 81 degrees when the game started. So if you're outdoors today, remember sunblock and water. The most precious commodity. Are we not aware of that? Wow. It'll be Rene Rivera, Cameron Maybin, and then Brooks Conrad in that order as we move to the 5th inning. No runs, 1 hit for the Padres. No runs, 3 hits for the Dodgers. Dodgers frustrating themselves yet again. They left a runner, Crawford, in scoring position in the 1st inning. They had runners at 1st and 3rd and nobody out in the 2nd inning and still came up empty. Off the plate, 2-0. And that's lifted foul down the right field line, out of play. 2-1 to count. The Padres skippered by Bud Black. Bud Black has had a wonderful career. Won in double figures 4 times as a left-hand pitcher in the major leagues. 2-2 to count. Bud's father, Harry, played 3 years with the Chicago Blackhawks of the NHL. And he's all business. He got his BS in business administration from San Diego State. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Off speed, and Rene way out in front of it. So Rivera becomes strikeout number 8 for Hyun-Jin Ryu. That's 14 strikeouts already, and we're only in the top of the 5th inning. It was a good curveball. You know, in all honesty, you watch games every day, and you start to wonder, can anybody hit a curveball? I mean, they hit hangers, but you rarely see them make connection on a good curveball. Maybin struck out. Ball 1. Cameron runs well. Then you have Brooks Conrad, the second baseman. One ball, no strikes. Slow roller. Uribe gobbles it, throws on the run. Just like that, 2 down. Talking a moment ago about Bud Black, and Bud talking about his late mother, and he said, when I was playing Little League, my mom used to iron my Little League uniform. Said, does anybody iron a Little League uniform? His eyes would glisten with a little teary. My mom ironed my Little League uniform. Won his 500th game last year as the manager, June the 17th. 1 ball and no strikes to Brooks Conrad. A little low. If you joined us a little late, you haven't missed anything except a lot of strikeouts. 2 balls and no strikes. And a strike. I think the weatherman was talking about the possibility of thunderstorms in the mountains and high desert. We look out at the hills and you can see the clouds, not quite a straight line, but there might be a little water up there. Now, if we can only move those clouds over here. 2-2 the count to Brooks Conrad. You know, it's not a bad idea to really try to conserve. You know, a good way to conserve water? When you take a shower, do it military style. Here's the 2-2 pitch. Foul ball. In other words, what you do, you turn the water on, you get wet, and you turn it off. Then you lather. Then you turn the water on, you wash it up, and that's the end of it. Get out of there. If we all did that every day, I think we'd be okay. Oh, sure, be careful watering lawns and, you know, just plumb out wasting water. A bad habit is to turn on the faucet while you're brushing your teeth and let the water run. Hey, cut that out too. 2-2. And see you later. 9 strikeouts for Hyun-Jin Ryu. 15 strikeouts in 4.5 innings. And at the end of 4.5, we're talking about water conservation. Nothing else. No score. Driven by your Southern California Mazda dealer. Bottom of the 5th inning, no score, and I mean nada. We have 15 strikeouts in 4.5 innings. Ryu has struck out 9 Padres, and it's kind of catching because Ross has struck out 6 Dodgers. So Tyson will be facing Uribe, Ellis, and Rojas. Back in September of last year, Tyson Ross's career strikeout game arrived. He struck out 10 in only 5 innings, but he had to come out. He made 105 pitches, and the Dodgers went on to win the game 2-1, getting the go-ahead run in the 6th inning against reliever Dale Thayer. By the way, Greinke went on to go 14-3, and the winning run came on a home run by Yasiel Puig. 0-1 to Uribe. No score. Fastball up. 1 ball and 1 strike. Tyson Ross out of Berkeley, went to Cal. 6'6", 230 pounds. Turned 27 the end of April. Majored in American Studies. Ground ball to third. Headley stays with it. So Uribe taps to third. 1 out in the 5th inning. Remember, Ross, #1 with ground balls, and the Dodgers have not been able to hit the ball in the air. So A.J. Ellis, who struck out in the 2nd inning, coming up. I mean, Ross introduced himself to the crowd in the 1st inning by striking out Gordon, Puig, and Gonzalez. He's settled down since and struck out 3 more, but he's gotten Puig twice. 0-1. No score. Dodgers came close. They had a runner at second with 1 out. And they had first and third, nobody out in the 2nd inning, and still came up empty. 0-1. Tyson, we mentioned the fact that as a youngster, he played Little League on 66th Street in Oakland, almost outside of the Coliseum. So he wore number 66 through Little League whenever he went. Finally, he came to spring training, and he had 66. But then he made the Oakland A's opening day roster. They changed his number, but he kept the uniform. As he said, it keeps me connected to my roots. In the dirt, 2-2. Tyson Ross, his mom is a longtime nurse in the emergency room at Children's Hospital in Oakland. Time for the moment while he works on the laces on his right shoe. Nice crowd on hand. Kind of somewhat in awe for all these strikeouts. 2-2 the count. A hopper to third. Headley's at the other end of it. So 2 down in the 5th inning, and Miguel Rojas coming up.
Coming to the plate, shortstop number 72, Miguel Rojas.
Looking at the Dodgers, Uribe singled in the 2nd inning, and that's it. So that's 2, 5, 8, 10 in a row retired by Tyson Ross. Rojas hit the ball hard, line drive, but right at Headley, who stepped on third to double up Ethier. Strike, 0-1. Listen to the lack of crowd. Do I check my book out here? One and two. Hyun-Jin Ryu threw 5 innings. Has made 72 pitches. Tyson Ross at 65 with 2 out here in the bottom half. Fouled away. Carl Crawford with his left hand heavily taped. I'm not sure whether he's had blisters from hitting so much, taking extra batting practice. We'll see what happens to him, whether he takes the field. And looking at the Padres, he fielded a base hit by Quentin, and that's all. Three and two. When Carl Crawford singled in the first inning, take a look at his left hand. He drags it, continues to drag it, but he did have the cover on it. Time. I'm not sure. 3 and 2. And that's a hopper to the hole. Amarista makes the play. So down go the Dodgers, 11 in a row retired, and at the end of 5, it's still no score. Was the manager of the National League All-Star team, his first of 9 positions in that role. The reason was the Dodgers had won the pennant in '53, lost the World Series to the Yankees, and decided to change managers. And Walter Alston began his career as the Dodger manager in 1954. And the manager of the team that had won the previous year automatically becomes the skipper for the All-Star game. And that was the beginning of Walter Alston's career. Tough beginning. The game was played in Municipal Stadium in Cleveland. And when the dust finally settled, the American League outscored the National League 11-9. Let's go back to this one. No score. Amarista faking a bunt. 1 ball and no strikes to Alexi. He struck out in the 3rd inning. Hyun-Jin Ryu, 9 strikeouts, 1 hit, single by Quentin to left field in the 4th inning. Curveball hit right through his legs and on out into center field. So Amariste, a leadoff single to center, and the batter is Tyson Ross. And the first thing we'll do is look at Tyson Ross's numbers. He has 2 sacrifices, and you'd expect him to try it again. So Ryu working out of a stretch. Final score from Rio de Janeiro. Germany defeated the Argentine 1-0. So the Germans did what they planned to do, try to shut down Lionel Messi, and I guess that event actually happened. Interesting story we heard. They say today in Argentina, in Rio, 125,000 Argentinians arrived the day of the game. No tickets, no hotel rooms, nothing. They just wanted to be there, hoping that Argentina would win. So what the Brazilian people did in the main thoroughfare where they hold the big fiesta, they put tents up to accommodate the 125,000 who hope to be revelers. Now they'll be mourners, and I'm just wondering how that'll go. 1 ball and 1 strike the count. We were just taking a quick peek every now and then at what was going on, and when Argentina saw Germany score, they flashed the cameras into the stands where the German population was, and we had a glimpse of Angela Merkel. Yep, she was there representing Germany. So a big day indeed. Germany beats Argentina, and now here we are, 0-0 here. The score 1-0 in favor of Germany. Tyson Ross still trying to move Amariste to second. Amariste has stolen 6 out of 7. The league does not run on Ryu, though we'll see. And the bunt is down. Ellis's play is to second base in time. A toe dance down there. We're watching Bud Black to see if he's going to come out and argue. It was a hurried high throw by AJ, and Black is in the dugout, 1 foot on the top step, looking back over his shoulder. Do I or don't I? And the answer is I don't. So a fine play by AJ Ellis, and a particularly fine catch by Rojas. So 1 out. Tyson Ross at first base. Big play by Miguel. That's a strike to Denorfia. Chris has struck out, grounded to short. 0 for 2. No score. Padres no runs, 2 hits. Dodgers no runs, 3 hits. 9 Padres have struck out, and 6 Dodgers so far. One and 1. Tyson Ross certainly doesn't figure to do any running. Gonzalez is off the bag, and the off-speed pitch misses, and they count 2 balls and 1 strike. Calling all the strikes that enter the zone in his 13th year as a National League umpire, Jim Wolf, graduate of El Camino Real High School here, lives over in Arizona now. Remember, his brother Randy, a major league pitcher, and any time that Randy Wolf would start a game, brother Jim Wolf was never the plate umpire. He covered the bases, but not behind the plate. Foul ball. His first big league game back in 1999. That was a game when the Giants played host to the Phillies. He worked third base. Younger brother Randy was then a pitcher for the Phillies and was in the visiting dugout. But they combined many times, but he was always on the base paths. 3-2. Fouled at the plate. No score. We're in the 6th inning. Padres offensively ranked last in so many various categories. Batting average, runs scored, you name it. But boy, their pitching been wonderful. 3-2. And down goes Denorfia a second time. That's 10 strikeouts for Ryu. And that time he really let one fly to blow him away. So 10 strikeouts. Good fastball. And now Chase Headley. Headley hit one almost through Ryu. And Gordon backed up to throw him out. And then last time up he struck out. Slow curveball, ball 1. Looking at the Padre lineup, and this is kind of interesting. We're in the 6th inning, and everyone but the pitcher has struck out. Tyson Ross grounded to third and bunted into a fourth play. Well, the Giants have come alive. Buster Posey, remember we were talking about the fact he was in a big slump. Well, he just hit a grand slam home run, and the Giants leading Arizona 4-1. They go to the top of the 6th. Headley 0 for 2. No score in the 6th. Tyson Ross is the runner at first, although runner is not the proper word. He's the standee. He doesn't figure to do any running. Meanwhile, Ryu pitching so very carefully to Headley, and he's fallen behind 3-1. 10 strikeouts for Hyun-Jin and no score. 3-2. Full count, 2 down. Ross will now become a runner. And a fly ball to right field. Puig almost in his tracks. No runs, 1 hit, a man left. And at the end of 5.5 innings, no score. Chase Headley hit one off the body of Ryu. Great backup, bare hand throw by D. Gordon, and that retired Headley. So that's been the standout defensive play thus far as we move into the bottom of the 6th inning. No score. Dodgers will have Hyun-Jin Ryu, then Gordon, and then Crawford. Ryu grounded out in the 3rd inning, 0 for 1. Tyson Ross on the base paths, now loosening up. A battle of strikeouts, 16 thus far. Ross, as we mentioned earlier, last September struck out 10 here in 5 innings, and he is certainly capable of doing that. And with all the strikeouts, a power pitcher who gets an awful lot of ground balls. So Tyson's ready. Rene Rivera gets his throw down to second base, and here we go. No runs, 2 hits for San Diego. No runs, 3 hits for the Dodgers. In the 3 previous games in this series, the total runs scored only 13. And even though the Dodgers have won 2 out of 3, the Padres outscored them 7 runs to 6. If you want to look at 9 games played, the Dodgers have scored 26, San Diego 22. Foul ball, 0-1 the count. Amarista playing a deep shortstop. 1 ball and 1 strike. Because he has a good arm. The deeper you get, the more range you have. But you have to have a good arm, and he's got one. Fly ball to right field. That's an upset against a ground ball pitcher. Whoops. Fighting the sun. Denorfier, a good outfielder, makes the play. So the glare, even though he has the shades on, used the bill of the cap and still needed the glove to get some shade. There is an art. Look at that. Now using the hand to cast a shadow. And voila. So a nice play on what is ordinarily considered a routine fly ball. That's 12 in a row, also retired by Tyson Ross. Gordon has struck out, grounded out, 0 for 2, shows bunt, strike 1. He was 0 for 4 last night, tried to bunt once. He did have 1 hit in the first game. Went 1 for 5. So he's 1 for 11 in the series, and without him leading the way, the Dodgers having a difficult time trying to score. They've won 1-0 and 2-1. No score today. They lost 6-3. 2-1 the count to D. Padres trying to shake it off. They've lost 6 of the last 8. And ball 3. Of course, the Padres, since they don't score a lot of runs, they're involved in 29 games decided by 1 run. They have been shut out 13 times. That's a strike. But their pitching keeps them in the game, game after game after game. No score, bottom of the 6th. On the heels of a 1-0 Dodger victory, the run coming in the 9th last night. Slaps a hopper into left field. So Gordon just puts the bat on the ball and takes it the other way. And now let's see if they finally turn him loose. One thing that Gordon has not been doing is stealing bases. Last night he didn't have a chance. He didn't have a chance the game before when Dan Herron pitched. And when Kershaw pitched, he didn't have a stolen base. So in his last 20 games, he has only 3 stolen bases. So we'll see now in this kind of a game, he plays a very important role. If you're Crawford, you're going to be looking fastball. That's off the plate, ball 1. So we showed you Carl Crawford with his left hand heavily wrapped. There was something inside the wrap. I wondered if it wasn't an ice cube or something like that. And my guess is either he scraped that hand despite carrying that left hand covered with the protective sleeve when he stole second, or he also has a lot of blisters trying to play catch up. Gordon goes on a pitch out. The throw is short. And into second base, a stolen base. Amarista sits down. So Rene Rivera, for the second time, gets rid of the ball right on the money, but on a hop. And Amarista tried to short hop to get him, and it didn't work. So Gordon comes up with the stolen base. Dodgers now again with a runner in scoring position. 43 out of 52 tries for D. Gordon. So 1 out, runner in scoring position. Dodgers left Crawford at second in the first inning, left first and third, and nobody out in the second inning. And the base hit now breaks that string of 12 in a row retired by Ross. 2-0. 2-1. On deck, Yasiel Puig. Crawford took over in the outfield last night when Puig was kicked out of the game. Carl went 0 for 2. Two balls and 1 strike. Bottom of the 6th. No score. A replay of last night. It was Kennedy and Mahalam. Today, Ryu and Ross. Way off the plate, ball 3. Amarista with a left-hand hitter up moves way over to his left, trying to take a step away from Gordon. That stolen base by D. Gordon is the 23rd stolen base against Tyson Ross. So he now leads the major leagues in stolen bases allowed at 23. We mentioned earlier that's really been his Achilles heel, the stolen base. Of course, at 6'6". Once he starts to move towards the plate, the runners take advantage of everything it takes before he releases the ball. And he releases Crawford on ball 4. For Tyson Ross, with his 6 strikeouts, he has walked his first man. Remember, he is a ground ball pitcher, and because he's a ground ball pitcher, he gets a lot of double plays. That's bailed him out quite often this year. The infield has turned 16 double plays behind Ross. Yasiel Puig has struck out twice. Just to follow the thought about the double play, Puig has only grounded into 4. Well, I guess you could say you have a ground ball pitcher and a fly ball hitter. In the dirt. Nice block by Rivera. We mentioned earlier that Tyson Ross is inclined to be wild in the fact that he has 9 wild pitches. 1 out, 6th inning, no score. Gordon at second, Crawford at first. They both run very well. And Puig followed by Gonzalez. With Puig up there, Headley is not particularly deep at third. There's a reason for that. 1-1. The reason is D. Gordon. If you play Headley deep at third with a hitter like Puig, Gordon will take advantage. He has stolen third base 8 times this year, 8 out of 9. Billy Hamilton of the Cincinnati Reds has stolen third 13 times. One ball and 1 strike. No score, 6th inning. Puig out of there. The opposition has stolen third on Tyson Ross 3 times this year. And they're going to try and take that step from Gordon. So Conrad coming to the bag. So they know the league runs on him. They know the league would steal third on him. And you have somebody who certainly would at second base. Breeze has picked up, blowing left to right. Blaine Boyer, who celebrated his birthday here, but it was not a happy birthday. Boyer was in the Hahn Herron game. 1 ball and 1 strike. Slider, 1 and 2 to count. If you are thinking about it, and you probably are, you should know that Tyson Ross has given up 10 home runs. Ross, fastball, cutter, slider, changeup. We trying to figure out what's coming up next. Ross very deliberate, getting that right foot on the rubber. 2 on, 1 out, no score, bottom of the 6th. And ground ball through into center field. Gordon will score without a play. Crawford goes to third, and the Dodgers lead 1-0. Oh, Yasiel Puig grounds one into center. It wasn't particularly hard hit. He doesn't care, neither do the Dodgers. It scored Gordon easily, and since it was not hit very hard, that allowed Crawford to easily to go to third without a play, even though he did go in with a slide. So the Dodgers break the ice and take a 1-0 lead. Yasiel pounding his chest and then waving back to the dugout. 1-0 Dodgers, and that'll be Adrian Gonzalez coming up with Crawford at third. Still only 1 out. Darren Balsley went out to counsel Ross. And of course, one of the problems for Ross and any of the other Padre pitchers, you give up a run and immediately you feel like you're the underdog after pitching so well. One thing, he has not had a strikeout since the 4th inning. Remember, he struck out the side in the 1st inning, and after facing just a few hitters, he had a half a dozen strikeouts. Now he's given up 2 singles and a walk and a 1-0 Dodger lead. Ball 1. Tyson Ross throws the 4-seamer. That's the up and in. The 2-seamer, the sinker. That was that last pitch. And then if you're a left-hand hitter, you got to think about the cutter as well as the slider and even the changeup. 1 ball and no strikes. 2-seamer, low and away. 2 balls, no strikes. You look at the book on Tyler Ross. His 4-seamer has been clocked as high as 97, and the 2-seamer at 93. Now, he took a lot off that pitch. 2-1. Tyson has now reached the 90 pitch mark. Two balls and 1 strike. Breeze blowing to right. Keeping an eye on Puig. For Tyson Ross, most pitches in a game this year would be July 2nd against Cincinnati. He went 9 innings and made 120 pitches. Two and two. By the way, another grand slam by the Giants. First it was Buster Posey. Now Madison Bumgarner, who is a good hitting pitcher. It was his 2nd grand slam this year, and the Giants have broken it wide open. They lead Arizona 8-1 in the 6th inning. Adrian Gonzalez, the Dodger RBI man, with 60 and 14 home runs. Struggling, however, with a .251 batting average. 2 and 2. Yasiel Puig has raw running speed, but not that much knowledge on pitchers' move to first. Puig is 7 and 7. 7 success, 7 caught. Off speed breaking ball, and down goes Gonzalez. So the Dodgers lead 1-0, but again they come up empty in a big runner in scoring position spot, and the breaking ball badly fooling Adrian. So now it's up to Andre Ethier. Dodgers left a runner at second in the 1st inning. They left 1st and 3rd and nobody out in the 2nd inning, and they have 1st and 3rd now with 2 out here in the 6th inning. Andre doubled and was nailed at 3rd on the line drive by Rojas, and last time up hit back to the box. One run, 5 hits for the Dodgers, no runs, 2 hits for the Padres, who will have Quentin, Grandal, and Rivera coming up in the 7th inning. And popped in the air, foul and well out of play. Directly below us, fastball alley. Anytime you have a ball anywhere in this area, it's always the result of the velocity of the pitch. They pull breaking balls there, go the other way, but The fastballs, if they come back here, you know it. 0-1. And that's lifted into left center. A trio of Padres. The middleman is Maben. And that'll do it. So the Dodgers make things tough on themselves. Oh, yes, they get a run, but they leave runners at first and third. It's D. Gordon, as usual, leading the way, hitting a low pitch for a base hit, stealing second base, and eventually coming home on a ground ball up the middle by Yasiel Puig. So it's 1-0 Dodgers. They're trying to make it stand up. Brandon League will come in and pick up for Hyun-Jin Ryu. Hyun-Jin Ryu made 20 pitches in the 6th inning, struck out 10, and the Dodgers get him out of there after having made 92 pitches and putting a fresh horse in there to try and hold on after Tyson Ross struggled with 25 pitches in the 6th inning and gave up the run. But for the Dodgers, it could have been more. But twice now in 6 innings, they left runners at first and third, as well as a runner at second base. So the Dodgers really aren't hitting any better than San Diego, although they are leading 1-0. So that means in the series so far, and we're now in the 7th inning of the 4th game, there have been 14 runs scored, and they've each scored 7. That is not much hitting. That sounds a little bit more like the World Cup. Anyway, Quentin, Grandal, and Rivera in that order. Carlos struck out, single to left. Ball 1. Quentin hitting 183. Brandon League coming out of the bullpen. He is 1-2. Good ERA of 2 in his 38th game. And he's behind 2-0. That's been League's problem. He's fighting it a bit. When you look at his numbers, 15 walks, 24 strikeouts. 2-0. And hit to right and deep. Puig going back on the track, makes the catch. So Quentin hits it hard the other way, and Yasiel goes back to flag it. 1 away. Puig, a study in motion, and kind of make it look easy. Remember, a right-hand batter hit that far, so he had to go a ways, but he got it. So now Grandal, who has struck out, hit into a force play. Puig gesturing, I think, to Ethier, but maybe to Crawford. What's that music from Annie Get Your Gun? Anything you can do, I can do better. That was kind of that gesture by Puig. In the bullpen, J.P. Howell begins to loosen up. That's in there, 1-1. Randall batting .206. San Diego's team batting average only .214. Dodger team batting average coming in just under .260. One ball now 2-1 the count. Mattingly a little restless. Giants big lead, leading 8-1. So the Dodgers have to win to remain one game in front. And that'll go to the screen. Ball 3. Brandon Lee out of Sacramento, lives in Honolulu, actually raised in Honolulu. Went to St. Louis High School on the island of Oahu. Brandon, 31 years old. And ball 4, so the tying run is aboard with one out. As we said, those numbers 15 and 24 indicate a pitcher struggling with his control. 1977, Garvey, Say, Baker, and Smith, the first set of 4 teammates to hit 30 home runs the same season. Well, the Dodgers will honor them Thursday, July 31st. The first 50,000 fans will take home an original 30 home run club bobblehead presented by Security Benefit. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Jake Gobert, who appeared as a pinch hitter last night, left-hand batter and struck out, started the Dan Herron game and went 0 for 4. Did line one right at the button at Adrian Gonzalez. So young Jake will come up now and bat for Rivera. Gobert can then stay and play first base, and Grandal can put the gear on and go behind the plate. Ball 1. AJ out to talk to Brandon. Randall spent a moment talking to Jose Valentin, who just looked over in the dugout for the moment. One ball and no strike to young Jake out of Illinois. That's a strike. One and one. Time. Gobert from Hoffman Estates, Illinois. Family has a farm, and there's about a 6-week period. It suddenly becomes a place for hay rides, a pumpkin patch, a petting zoo, and wagon rides. So the farm becomes an amusement park. That's filed away. He calls it agritainment business. And he works in the shop with his father and his brother, dreaming up the ideas of what else can we do next year. The farm, about 50 some odd miles northwest of Chicago. And the families in the area just love to come there with the children. 1-2 the count to Jake. Ground ball, Gonzalez down to Rojas, back to League, but he was off the bag. Brandon League was not on the bag, so the Dodgers blow the double play. A.J. Ellis, however, gestures to Mattingly as if to say, you best come out and argue on that one. So here comes Don. And while he trots out, Wallach is on the phone. We'll watch what Tim says. It looked pretty obvious League had missed the bag. Tim says, can't see. Now he can. Thumb up. Okay. Then it makes it an official review. So Gobert hits into the force play, and the question is whether he is safe or out, and whether the inning continues or not. Let's watch that right foot. It doesn't look like it, but maybe the side of the foot hit the side of the bag. Now, can you imagine the umpire trying to call that? The umpire, by the way, is rightfully so down the line a little bit. Last night, there was a ball that looked like it hit the foul line. It tore up a divot, and yet they checked with New York, and they said, no, the ball missed the foul line, which was a surprise. Most of the time, it's either absolute or, well, okay when you see the result. This one was a little tough, especially if you're the first base umpire. I mean, where we are, it's another story. There's the easy out. Here comes League to cover. Here's the throw from Rojas. Where's the foot? You can't tell because the bag is in the way. And the umpire's not in view. But the umpire can look, and was it a stab on the bag or did he miss it? As quick as it happened, sitting up here, I thought he missed the bag. But that means nothing. Imagine how tough these calls are for the naked eye when they have to wait this long. See where the umpire is. That's a key. He's right there to see that foot. Look at him lean and look. That's our pal Brian Gorman, whose dad we just truly admired, Tom Gorman. Brian is the crew chief. Well, if it's taken this long, you realize what a tough call that had to be. Mattingly was advised for the official review by Tim Wallach after the phone call. So either the inning is over or there's a runner at first with 2 out, and Cameron Maybin will be the batter. It's like they called New York and the line is busy. Pretty dramatic, isn't it? Boy, it would be. Can you imagine the World Series and maybe a runner at third might have scored, or it would have been the 3rd out? It might happen one day. All right, fellas, what do you say? Brian says safe. So it did look like up here, but heck, what do I know? Take a look at it again. It is a force play at second base, and Gobert is safe at first. You can see the foot, but you can't see it in relationship to the bag. That's the problem. The man who had the look, and it was Brian Gorman saying he missed the bag, and I firmly believe that at the call. So the inning is still alive. Gobert a tying run at first base with 2 out, and Cameron Maybin at the plate. Ball 1. Gobert came up while the Dodgers were in San Diego, so I'm not sure what kind of knowledge he has about the pitchers and their move to first. He'll learn. Gobert is 0 for 1 trying to steal. Two out, 7th inning, 1-0 Dodgers. On the heels of a Dodger 1-0 victory in the 9th inning last night. Slicing foul ball. That'll go well back in the stands. 1 ball and 1 strike. And line to right. Puig is going to have to play it on a bounce. Gobert stops at second. Yasiel gets it in to Gordon. So that was a big miss when League missed the bag. And the batter now is Brooks Conrad. One run, 5 hits in favor of the Dodgers. No runs, 3 hits. I was just thinking, we have a moment. First time I did a World Series was 1953. I forget everything about it except Whitey Ford of the Yankees was the runner at third, and there was a fly ball to right field to Furillo. And Ford tagged up, and I, in my great wisdom, hollered out to the world that Ford has left third too soon. Well, luckily, Whitey ran about 30 feet down the line, stopped, and came back to the bag. And I was in the car going home, and I actually broke out into a sweat. And I thought, wait a minute, dummy. Let's say he doesn't stop. Let's say he scores, and maybe it's the winning run. And you've said he left third too soon. Whoa, I was absolutely petrified. I had thrown up before that game. I was so scared. It was my first game. I almost threw up driving home thinking about Ford going back to the bag. We'll get out of here. We'll be right back after this.
History, no Dodger has hit more than his 389 home runs or driven in more.
The inning very much alive then, and may have been singled. So the Padres have runners at first and second with 2 out. The Dodgers bring in J.P. Howell to turn the pinch hitter Brooks Conrad around. Conrad has only had a few at-bats, and he is 0 for 6 as a right-handed batter. He was 2 for 17 batting left-handed. Actually, batting left-handed, he struck out twice against Ryu. So let's see what he does from this side. Tying run Gobert at second, Maben at first. 2 down. And ball 1. On deck, Alexei Amarista is due to come up, but looks like Tommy Medica would come up as a pinch hitter. A little bit of a surprise because he had that tight right groin the other night. Ball 2. Conrad, a home run, 2 RBIs, hitting .087. Dodgers trying to hold on to a 1-0 lead. We're in the 7th. Gobert and Maben out on the lines. That's in there. 2-1. James Phillip Howell by name is 1-3, but his earned run average a dazzling 1.3. Howell 15 walks, 33 strikeouts, so better than 2-1. And a drive to left. Crawford going back and backhands it. Carl appeared a little tentative going back on that ball, but you understand that because he hadn't played much. And it's a bright, sunny Sunday afternoon, but he made the play, reaching up and backhanding a well-hit ball. Padres lead 2. Dodgers still lead 1-0. 1-0 in favor of the Dodgers as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning. Happy crowd singing "God Bless America, Take Me Out to the Ball Game," and it has been a tough ball game and still is. Dodgers somehow got a run. They've left several men in scoring position, but they got one in the 6th. And then the Padres, struggling all year, came close but no cigar in the 7th. So it's still 1-0 Dodgers. The Giants were breezing 8-1. They've had 2 grand slams. So the Dodgers have to keep up the pace. Uribe, Ellis, and Rojas against Tyson Ross. And a strike, 0-1. Jay Gobert, who appeared as a pinch hitter for Rivera, the catcher, has taken over first, it figured. And then Yasmani Grandal goes behind the plate. So Grandal back to familiar territory. Gobert basically an outfielder, but getting some experience. He's a left-handed thrower. That always seems to help at first base. Little nubber foul. Still 0-2. 1 run, 5 hits for the Dodgers, no runs, 3 hits for San Diego. Last night, San Diego out-hit the Dodgers, but the Dodgers had 1 run on 4 hits, and the Padres no runs on 5 hits. So what's really happening? It is no surprise that the Padres are struggling offensively, but it's either a terrible surprise for the Dodgers that they can't score, or, and more likely, a tribute to San Diego pitching. Game 1, Jesse Hahn went 6 innings, allowed just 1 run and 3 hits. After that game, which the Padres won 6-3, they immediately sent Hahn out. Not that they were disappointed, but that figured to be his last start with the All-Star break. They needed extra infielders. Jace Peterson was called up. So Hahn was tough, allowing 1. Kennedy, very tough, did not allow any. And now here's Ross, who's allowed 1. Oh, 2 to Juan Uribe. In at the knuckles. That's one of the areas never discussed. The lack of fear, or the prevented for so many making the big league. That's going to go into left center, base hit. Maben over to cut it off. Uribe will hold on with a long single. So Juan is 2 for 3, and the batter will be A.J. Ellis. Dodgers now with 6 hits and 1 run. Uribe does not do any running. He is 0 for 1, and that was probably a busted hit and run play. And you're thinking right now about a possible hit and run play with A.J. Ellis. So are the Padres, so they'll keep an eye on Uribe. One of the Dodgers' secret weapons, because he doesn't make any headlines, is J.P. Howell. Howell has been terrific for the Dodgers in the clutch. The bunt is down. The out has to be to first. And down to second base goes Uribe to bring up Miguel Rojas. And then Howell. Here's the note about Howell. With runners in scoring position, the opposition is hitting .154 against Howell. With runners in scoring position and 2 outs, the runners are hitting .071. That's James Phillip Howell. I mean, You lose him in the jungle. You know, Kenley Jansen is the closer, some great starters, but he has been an absolute jewel. Brian Wilson begins to throw in the Dodger bullpen. A lot of activity. Wayne Boyer and Alex Torres in the Padre pen. And a strike to Miguel. Rojas came up first and third, one out in the second inning, and hit a line drive right at Chase Headley, who stepped on third to double up Ethier. Then last time up, he rolled out to short. Oh, 0-2 to Miguel. Struggling at the plate. Hitting .208. Dodgers trying to beat the Padres 7 out of 10, but it has been a monumental struggle. In the dirt. Nice block by Grandal. The scores in the series: 3-1, 3-2, 5-1, 6-5, 4-2, 2-1, 2-1, 6-3, 1-0. I mean, Black's club has just played the Dodgers to a standstill, even though Mattingly's boys have won 6 out of 9. It has not been easy in any of them. Fastball almost hit him. Maybe he did. The Rojas taking the shin guard off, hit by the pitch.
Center fielder number 33, Scott Van Slyke.
So the Dodgers now with runners at first and second. For Tyson Ross, that would be the 4th batter that he has hit this year, and that's high on the San Diego club. So now Scott Van Slyke coming up to hit for Powell. JP gives way, and Van Slyke, hitting .270, checks in. Van Slyke with Gordon on deck. Scotty 8 home runs, 16 runs batted in, and a strike. 0-1. Van Slyke 0 for 1, struck out against Ross, so not much to learn from that. Uribe at second. Rojas at first, and a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Dodgers picked up the only run in the game in the 6th inning. Gordon singled, stole second, and scored on a base hit by Yasiel Puig up the middle. And that's it. One and two. Big overhand slider. Josh Comender of Arizona pitches directly over the top like a pitching machine, but it's really something when a 6'6" pitcher comes right up over the top. And Van Slyke, did he? No, he didn't. Thought he might have gotten a piece of it. So down he goes. And now D. Gordon.
Second baseman number 9.
Giants are leading Arizona. It's 8-4, bottom of the 7th inning. Cody Ross hit a 2-run home run. D-backs added another to knock Bumgarner, who hit a grand slam in the game. Bumgarner has been knocked out of the game in the 7th inning, but the Giants are still leading by 4. But remember the horror story up there. The Giants have lost 16 of the last 20 games played at home. Ball 1 to D. Gordon struck out, grounded out, singled, scored the only run. He has 2 home runs, 25 runs batted in. Outfield shaded to left. Give him all of right field. Right. 1-1. Uribe opened up with a single. Ellis sacrificed. Rojas hit by a pitch. Van Slyke strikes out as a pinch hitter. And here's Gordon. That's on the corner. So he's in a hole now, 1-2. Padres in the 8th inning. They will start with their shortstop, Amarista. Remember, we saw Tommy Medica on deck. 1 ball, 2 strikes. 2-2. Gordon, an all-star, certainly deserves it. And he deserves 2 stars because he's been dynamite with runners in scoring position, hitting .359 in the clutch. So deuce is wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, 2 on, 1-0 Dodgers. Got him. So Gordon strikes out a second time today. Dodgers leave 2 more, 1 more in scoring position, so they're certainly making it tough on themselves. But the Dodgers still clinging to a 1-0 lead. Live streaming sports service celebrating 12 years. Join the millions of subscribers. Watch every out-of-market game live in true HD on over 400 devices. Visit Dodgers.com for details. Bud Black, who won in double figures 5 times in his major league career, really in there with Tyson Koss. Yeah, Bud has done a great job managing a very frustrating team. Finished his career with the Giants after pitching with the Royals and the Indians. And he appreciates a gutsy performance, and that's Tyson Ross. Meanwhile, J.P. Howell has a lot of work to do. And the left-hander ready. Amarista pulls one, backhanded by Adrian, who spots the throw. Beautifully executed. How many times they work that play in spring training, how many times it doesn't work during the regular year. That was textbook. Hard ground ball. He had to leave his post, and then he had to throw reasonably hard to get it in time on the money. Nice play.
Your attention, please, for the Padres. Pinch hitting, number 25, Will Venable.
Will Venable will now bat for Ross. So Tyson Ross got to hang in there after going a strong 7 and allowing just 1 run. And now Venable will come up and bat. Venable appeared as a pinch hitter last night, flied to center, stayed in the game, and ran down Adrian Gonzalez double. made a good throw to second base, but Adrian just did get in there, and eventually Gonzalez scored the winning run. The game before with Dan Harron, Venable started that game and had 3 hits. He appeared as a pinch hitter in the Kershaw game and flied to right. So sooner or later you figure to see Will Venable, and here he is, the pride of Princeton. Popped up, foul ground. JP is getting in the middle of it, and Uribe said, man, get out of the way. JP was pretty pumped up. You bet he is. 2 down.
Right fielder number 13, Chris Denorfia.
So Uribe over to talk to Howell. JP just said, hey, I'm going to make this play, and then Uribe in 2 languages said, get out of the way. So with 2 out, Denorfia the batter, and Ellis wants to talk to Howell about how they pitched to Chris. Denorfia has struck out twice and grounded to short. They want to get him for sure. They don't want to look at Headley. So Denorfia hitting .246. Interesting, both starting pitchers. And there's a bunt. Down to get it is Howell. And he threw almost into the runner. And Gonzalez tried to reach in. Denorfia hustling as he always does. And Adrian couldn't hold on to it. So I assume they will give Howell the error. And that will bring up Headley.
Third baseman number 7, Chase Headley.
Throw sailed right into the runner. Boy, how easy it is to wreck your wrist reaching in on that kind of a throw. And here comes Denorfia. They're going to give the error to Gonzalez, figuring the Gold Glove should have handled that. So we'll see just how big a play that is, and it's pretty big just to get Headley up there. Headley grounded out, struck out, fly to right, has been a very hot hitter in the month of July. Denorfia also runs very well. So the last thing the Dodgers wanted to do was make an error and allow Denorfia to get on base. He is 7 for 7 in stolen bases. So you have a hands full here. Headley at the plate and Denorfia at first. Headley had hit safely in 10 of his last 11 with 2 hits last night. Headley today 0 for 3, but he's been hot. Ball 1. So both starting pitchers started out like a house of fire. Ryu went 6, struck out 10. Ross now goes 7. He struck out 8, making 9, and now he's gone. And there he goes. Throw to first. Gonzalez down to Gordon. They got him. Denorfia caught stealing for the first time this year, and what a time to be caught. So Howell walks off, and we're heading to the bottom of the 8th inning, and the Dodgers still leading 1-0. Gordon slapped one in to left field, then steals second base, and then Puig grounds one up the middle. Gordon scoring easily. Dodgers led 1-0, and that's it. A pumped up Puig drives in the only run, and the Dodgers have now taken it into the bottom of the 8th inning, 1-0. Will Venable, who came in as the pinch hitter and fouled out, takes over in right field, so he stays in bats 9. And Blaine Boyer, the new pitcher, will go into Denorfia's spot. So Denorfia, who reached on the error, charged to Gonzalez, picked off, and Gonzalez made that great throw down to Gordon for the tag. And it is a great throw. It is a very difficult throw if you're a first baseman and a runner heading towards second. It's awfully hard to find the infielder covering without throwing it away. So here's Crawford against Blaine Boyer. Boyer celebrated his birthday 2 games ago. He came in to relieve young Jesse Hahn, and he had a rough time. Blaine in relief gave up a double, a walk, a force play, another double, and a sac fly. 1-1. Carl Crawford single to left and stole second, struck out and walked. Down in the Dodger bullpen, there he is, Kenley Jansen, getting ready. He made 17 pitches last night while striking out 2. That's in the air down the left field line. Amarista crossing the line. It's going to land foul. With a left-hand hitter up there, Carlos Quentin had not much of a chance to get there. Amarista gave it his best shot, couldn't quite do it. 1 run, 6 hits for the Dodgers. No runs, 3 hits for the Padres. Off speed that got away. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Blaine Boyer, that's a great last name in baseball. There were a lot of Boyers. Dodgers had a great third baseman, Ken Boyer, 3-2, no relation. There was Cloyd Boyer, he was a reliever. Cleet Boyer, third baseman. And here's Blaine. Blaine's from Atlanta, Georgia, lives in Marietta. Fouled away. The Braves signed the Georgia boy, 3rd round, back in 2000. By 2005, he was with the Braves. Then went to the Cardinals in 2009. Then a couple of years with the Diamondbacks. Then a year with the Mets. And now San Diego. Fastball. Good one in 92, down and away. Told a story about Blaine. He was in elementary school with Bobby Cox's daughter, Skyla, when Bobby was the manager in Atlanta. And Blaine told Skyla, one day, I'm going to play for your dad. By gosh, he did. 3-2 to Crawford. And a high fly ball down the line. Quentin coming to the line, over the line. 1 away. So Carl Crawford fouls out to left. 1 away. And Yasiel Puig, who has the only RBI in the game, coming up. By the way, when the Padres come up in the 9th inning, it'll be the heart of the lineup. That means Chase Headley, Carlos Quentin, Yasmani Grandal, and if anybody gets on, the rookie Jake Gobert. Puig struck out twice and then grounded one up the middle. Amarista plays him so deep and way over into the hole at short, anything that gets by the mound is heading towards the outfield. Way out in front. 0-1. Brooks Conrad, the best he can do is play on the grass, way over to his right. The outfield, if anything, pinching the middle. They give Puig straightaway left, straightaway right. Adrian Gonzalez on deck. That went into the mask of Grandal. Boy, what a beating they take day in, day out, year in, year out. Tough job, and of course you get sympathy as well from the plate umpire that catches enough into his mask. And in this case, Jim Wolf, AJ understands. 1-2. Hey, AJ Ellis thought maybe I had my jaw broken on that foul ball last night. Stan Conti was right there alongside of him. That was his main concern. One and two. Slow curveball hit into the gap, and that's going to land, and the wild horse is into second base easily, and he'll hold up there with a double. Boy, that was a gift. A nice big slow curveball, and Yasiel just waited and then whacked it.
First baseman Adrian Gonzalez.
Take another look at this pitch. Up there and right there. So Puig doubles into the gap, and Adrian Gonzalez now trying to pick him up to give the Dodgers that additional run they would like. Coming out on deck to bat for J.P. Howell would be Matt Kemp. Bud Black, meanwhile, looking ahead. He has Alex Torres, the left-hander, and the Dodgers have Adrian Gonzalez, so you would expect the left-hander will be coming in. Yep, here he comes, so we'll be right back. Is his cap. Alex Torres has an inserted liner, I think it's plastic, inside the cap to protect him against line drives, whatever, head injuries. It does not come down to cover the ears, so it's okay. It's like looking at the coaches at first and third. They wear helmets, but nothing to cover the ear. But psychologically, I guess, it takes some of the worry out, and Alex going to work. Trying to get Adrian Gonzalez. Torres, 5'10", 175, 26 years old, from Venezuela. Adrian Gonzalez struck out twice, grounded out, 0 for 3. Boyer made 12 pitches and got himself in a little trouble with that curveball to Yasiel Puig. Paid attendance is over 47,000. Now Headley's pretty far away from third base. And ball one. You see where Headley is. So the door is slightly open. What's that joke you tell the youngster? When is a door not a door? When it's ajar? Well, we'll watch Puig. On a fly ball to left center, it's playable. Quentin is there. Puig nowhere to go back to second base. So the Dodgers continue to struggle, leaving runners in scoring position. They're doing it today before 47,131. And now Matt Kemp will come up and bat for J.P. Howard. And immediately there'll be a switch as the left-hander comes out. Dale Thayer was throwing in the pen. We'll be right back. Local boy. He was born in Fountain Valley. He lives in Huntington Beach, and he went to school at Cal State Chico. He is 33 years old. He'll be 34 the middle of December. A 6-footer, checks in about 185, and was drafted by the Padres as a free agent about 12 years ago. So Dale Thayer came up with the Devil Rays, went to the Mets, and then to San Diego. Matt Kemp 0 for 6 as a pinch hitter. And basically the book on Thayer: fastball, slider, and a changeup. So you figure you're going to see some sliders. And starts fastball for a strike, 0-1. Matt last night had a tough night. 2 strikeouts, hit into a double play. So they thought they'd let him collect himself today, but here he is, pinch hitting in the 8th. However, the Dodgers are winning 1-0. It's a totally different psychological moment for the pinch hitter. It is one thing to be coming up in the 8th inning with 2 out and the tying run at second base, as opposed to coming up with 2 out in the 8th inning and a go-ahead run, since you're leading 1-0. Puig out there, 1 ball, 1 strike. 1-2. Kemp, feast or famine, has struck out 86 times. Thayer in relief. In checking how much he has racked up. 10 walks, 35 strikeouts. So better than 3-1. Fouled a fastball off. Dodgers won in the 9th inning last night 1-0. They're leading 1-0 in the 8th inning today. The last time the Dodgers won 2 1-0 games back to back in July in 2011. You're right, against the Padres. Well, they haven't won this one yet. See you later. So Matt Kemp caught looking. Down he goes. Dodgers blow yet another chance to score a run. And at the end of 8, it's 1-0 Dodgers, and enter Kenley Jansen. With a 1-0 lead. They've had opportunities. They left runners at first and third in the 6th inning. The same inning they scored the run. They left a runner at second base in the 7th inning. They left a runner at second base in the 8th inning. So now they rely on the strong right arm of Kenley Jansen, who threw very hard last night, but he also gave up 2 base hits. Seth Smith singled last night. Carlos Quentin singled. Well, he'll face Headley, Quentin, and Grandal, or Seth Smith, lurking in the background. So Kenley made 17 pitches, then came in and pitched briefly, now picking up in the 9th inning. Jansen has been in 2 games against San Diego, made a total of 24 pitches. He had only made 8 pitches before this series in the month of July. So for a closer, if it's not one thing, it's another. If you're either overworked or you're not worked at all, and that makes it difficult to pitch. And a drive to right. Puig on the dead run and catches up to it. To Headley, a fly ball down the line. Puig's great speed gives you such coverage out there. Adrian Gonzalez stops to chat with him. Puig never slowed down until he knew he was right at there. Right now. So one away as Headley fouls out, and the batter Carlos Quentin. So the Dodgers shut down Chase Headley. He goes 0 for 4 in this final game of the series. Ball one. Final score, Giants beat Arizona 8-4. It's a first in Major League history. The starting pitcher and catcher tandem each hit a grand slam home run. Posey first and Bumgarner later on. Giants 8, Arizona 4. 1-1 to Carlos Quentin, who has struck out, single to left, the only hit that San Diego got against Ryu, and lined out to right in the 7th inning. The Padres have gotten a man to second base. Two and one. Kenley 11 walks, 60 strikeouts. 2-2. Took a lot off that pitch. So better than 5-1 to dominate. Don't forget, the next game at Dodger Stadium is July 29th here with Atlanta. Pop foul, out of play. Dodgers will have the All-Star break, and then they'll be on the road in St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and San Francisco, and then come home for Atlanta, Chicago, and the Angels. The Dodgers so far this year have beaten the Cardinals 3 out of 4. They have not faced Atlanta. That's another foul ball. Dodgers have lost 3 out of 4 at home to Pittsburgh. And remember, the Giants have beaten the Dodgers head-to-head 7 out of 10. So there's a lot of heavy work and very important games coming up. 2-2. So Jansen going all the way to Quentin. 1 out, 9th inning, 1-0 Dodgers. Trying to make it 7 out of 10. Yasmani Grandal on deck. 3-2. Quentin really shrinking the strike zone. Curveball, ball 4. So the tying run is aboard again. Padres had the tying run aboard in the 7th and in the 8th and now in the 9th. Yasmani Grandal has struck out, hit into a force play, and walked. All set for the breaking ball, and it just stayed up and in. Jace Peterson, he's the young fella who was called up when they sent the pitcher Jesse Hahn down. Peterson is running for Quentin. Yasmani Grandal, switch hitter, batting left-handed, hitting 138 right, 221 left. Fouled away. Grandal has 9 home runs, and 8 of the 9 hit left-handed. Jace Peterson, who is the runner at first, has stolen as many as 51 bases in the minor leagues. So they're really going to have to watch him. 0-1. 1-1. One out in the ninth. 1-0 Dodgers. Trying to have back-to-back 1-0 victories. Jansen is very vulnerable to the stolen base. In his career, 26 out of 30. And with Peterson's speed, the only difference is whether Peterson is able to read Jansen, or will he try to go just on sheer speed to get the jump. So a lot going on right here. Peterson a good lead. Yeah, you got to go over there.
Let's go.
Big bouncer that's going to right field. Peterson is on his way to third. Puig overruns the ball and then gets it back in. A dangerous throw by Puig as well. First he overran the ball, then he kind of lobbed it into second. And with a guy like Peterson, had Glenn Hoffman seen that lob throw, he could easily have sent Peterson home. Puig is still standing out there in shallow right field. He's still, watch this. He'll bobble, recover, and then watch. Just kind of lob it. Very, very dangerous. So Grandal, a single to right. Tying run 90 feet away. And with one out, the batter is Jake Gobert. Came in as a pinch hitter and stayed in to play first base. Gobert hit into a force play in the 7th inning. That was the play involving Brandon League when League missed touching first base. Oh, and 1 to count to Jake Gobert. Rene Rivera had grounded out and struck out. On deck, Seth Smith. Sooner or later, we figured to see Seth here in the 9th inning. There he is. 0-1. One ball and one strike. So Jansen, who made 24 pitches in the last 2 games, has made 14 thus far here in the 9th inning. One ball and one strike. 1 run, 7 hits for the Dodgers. No runs, 4 hits for the Padres. And that's in there. One thing about Gobert, at least in the minor leagues, he never struck out 100 times. Jansen, of course, trying to put him away with a runner at third. Overthrowing. 2-2. Jansen with a runner at third. We always look it up. He has 2 wild pitches. So in the inning, Headley fouled out to Puig, who made a nice running catch. Quentin walked. Peterson ran for him. And Grandal single to right. Peterson taking third. 2-2. Got him. So Jansen, who struck out 2 last night, comes back to strike out Gobert. Runners still at first and third, 2 out. And now a veteran hitter, Seth Smith, coming up.
Your attention, please, for the Padres. Pinch hitting number 12, Seth Smith.
Let's look at Kenley Jansen versus Seth Smith. The answer is Seth 0 for 3 in the past with 2 strikeouts. Seth for the year hitting .284, 10 home runs, 27 runs batted in, 2 for 4 in the series, and hold everything now. Don Mattingly going out to talk to Jansen. So Smith hitting for Cameron Maben, and on deck the switch hitter Brooks Conrad. Boy, that is a lengthy meeting. All right, first and third, 2 out in the 9th inning. Ryu had 10 strikeouts. League and Howell did not have a strikeout. So Jansen gets his first, and that means 11 Padres have struck out. When Kemp struck out as a pinch hitter, that marked 10 Dodgers to bite the dust. So it has come down to this. Seth Smith head to head with Kenley Jansen. Runners at first and third. Grandal at first. Peterson, the track star, at third. And drops that breaking ball in for a strike. Oh, 0-1 to Seth. Out of Jackson, Mississippi, lives in Brandon, Mississippi, went to the University of Mississippi. 0-1. 10 home runs, 27 runs batted in. He had as many as 17 with the Rockies. 0-2. Crowd on its feet now, 47,131. First and third, 2 out, 9th inning, 1-0 Dodgers. One and two, and he hit 98, so that's about as hard as he can throw, and he looked at it as he kind of staggered in his follow through. 1-2 the count to Seth Smith. Seth, 31 years old, has been through a lot with the Rockies, the A's, and now with San Diego. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Runner bluffs, and he goes after a bad ball and strikes out. So Jansen strikes out 2. 12 Padres bit the dust. Jansen also made 21 pitches, and he finishes the pre-All-Star time coming up with yet another clutch save. The player of the game, you'll have to give it to Hyun-Jin Ryu, who went 6 innings, allowed just 1 hit, nothing else, and struck out 10. It wasn't good enough to get the victory. The Dodgers, however, did pick it up for him in the bottom of the 6th inning when they finally came up with the only run of the game. So Ryu, the winning pitcher, the player of the game, and the Dodgers, for the first time since 2011, win back-to-back games by the score of 1-0, and each time it involved the San Diego Padres. That'll do it till we talk to you next. Until then, have a very pleasant good afternoon, everybody.